Alright everybody, this is the last video I'm going to create for you, and it, as I said, allows me to get some things out to you that you can begin on this week. And I'm going to talk for hopefully about 5 minutes. I'll check my time here. I'm going to talk about papers, the papers for this class, so that you can get started. That was one of the things I really wanted to talk about today on week 3, but we got preempted. This paper is worth, with the proposal, I believe it's 45% of the grade. It is a 15-page paper or thereabouts. It is graded to a very high standard. You are graduate students in an outstanding program at a good university, so you have to do well to get an A, as it should be. So that's the first point to make to you. Let me talk to you a little bit about the paper topic. What we do in graduate school, what graduate students do, is write. That is what you do. To succeed in graduate school, you must write well. Writing and thinking are so deeply intertwined. All great thinkers were inveterate writers. They wrote letters, notes, and journals. They wrote books and plays and all sorts of other things. The writing helped them think through and understand something. We give you assignments to write to force you to come to grips with something and understand it more clearly. There is a method to our madness, and that is it. And you should have come to graduate school so that you could write about things that interest you. So here we are. This paper is a literature review. This is not an essay. This is not personal. It's not a research paper. In other words, you don't gather data for this paper. The core of this paper is a section of this paper where you read and digest a body of literature, probably a body of mostly scholarly literature, and then you speak across that literature. You have to understand it well, you then synthesize it, and you describe it in its whole. So understanding it well is key. That's really, really important. And you understand something well by writing about it. So this is a process. The best thing you can do is to begin writing as early as possible. Right now. So when you begin taking notes, begin digging into your databases and things, start writing from day one. And that's the best advice I can give you. The key here is that you synthesize and bring the literature together and organize it in some logical fashion. Do not organize your paper by the paper. In other words, don't have one paragraph that says, this piece of research said this, period, end of the paragraph, new paragraph. This piece of research said this, then a new paragraph. This piece of research said this. Excuse me. That is not how you organize this paper. Do not do that. So I will post for you some example papers of some very strong work, but that's the core goal. That's what I'm looking for. That's what you need to do. You might think to yourself, what interests you? If it's a particular theory, a particular branch of strategic communication, and you can try to be entrepreneurial about it. That is, writing about something that's related to your work, or related to your career goals, or related to your capstone. And we do have students who will write methodologies in their research methods class. They write a literature review in this class, COMM 735. They put the two together and go gather data for a capstone. For you guys, I know your capstone's a little further down the road, a little further in the future, but you can be thinking about that now. So think about what interests you. Begin to browse the scholarly literature, and I might do one more video where I get us into the scholarly literature just a little bit. You will need to use online databases through the university library. There's no way to successfully do this paper without those online databases. Google Scholar will not work for you. Google will not work for you. At the same time, as you go looking for literature, don't go down the rabbit hole. And what I mean by that is there's always another article to read. There's always something more interesting to read. Find your area of interest, and that will immediately help you set aside or push aside literature that is only partly related or unrelated to what you're talking about. So what I mean is that if you're interested in framing, well, there are 1,000 articles out there about framing and probably a couple hundred books. That's too much for you to digest for this class. But then you say to me, no, I'm really interested in framing on television. Now we can only look to those scholarly articles that talk about visual framing or framing through TV shows. And then you say, well, I really want to focus on just research that's been done in the last 20 years. Good. Okay, we can look at how primetime television shows have framed issues in the last 20 years. And I don't even know that there'll be much out there on that, but that is a narrow enough topic that you'll be able to find that you won't be overwhelmed with the literature. So we do have to draw boundaries around our topics. I strongly encourage you to talk to others and talk to each other and talk to me as you go about doing this project. Do not work in a vacuum. A lot of scholarly research, a lot of scholarly work is done. It's a solo enterprise. We sit in the library, we sit at home doing our work by ourselves. You are really, really helped when you're forced to talk about your project. What are you doing? What sources do you have? What are you going to say in your paper? And to try to explain that to somebody is a very useful enterprise. Not only that, but it serves as a motivating enterprise. You sit down with two friends from this class and you each ask each other, where are you at in your paper? And you say to each other, okay, in 2 weeks where you're going to be, and you talk to each other in another week or another 2 weeks. If you meet with your friends and they are all far along in their paper and you're not, that's a motivator for you to get it done. So I strongly encourage you to talk to others. Do not just sit and think about an idea. We have all built on what's been done before, especially in a paper like this. It's built on what's been done before. So see what's been done. This might sound like funny advice, but I often think if students say, well, I'm thinking about my topic, that they're not doing anything. Instead, write something. Write a paragraph about what you think you're going to do. Then look up some more articles. Then write a paragraph, do an outline. But I encourage you to do, not think. It's a funny thing to say, but I encourage you to do, not think, to get yourself going with this particular project. This does not have to be the perfect, most imaginative paper topic. Okay? People write wonderful papers that get them A's in this class about agenda setting, which we were talking about our first theory, about priming, about framing. Somebody could do a wonderful paper on bringing agenda setting thinking up to date. What are we talking about with agenda setting today? That's perfectly fine. You would demonstrate that you can synthesize and command a body of literature, bring it together and talk about and write about it. Great. That's what we need to do here. So don't let the search for the perfect paper topic get in your way of getting this done. Sorry, people are yelling in the house, so I'm trying to see what's up. Okay, a couple questions students ask. You were going to ask these questions, you know you were. So here's one. How long does it have to be? I'm going to say 15 pages. If it's a week before it's due, if somebody's asking me, how long does this have to be? It's always a bad sign. Those people who get into this topic will have no trouble coming to around 15 pages. How many sources do you have to use? I'm going to give you an answer. I'll say a dozen, but it really just depends. Again, somebody who comes to me late in the game and says, how many sources do I need? It's a red flag. They're having trouble. There is a lot of material out there. You should not have any problem finding enough sources, finding a lot of sources for nearly all of your topics. Can you use other sources? Yes. I think you can use any source. I mean, if you want, you could go do an interview, I guess. I don't think any source is out of bounds, but you have to evaluate, critically examine and evaluate these sources. And somebody's blog post about priming might not be a very valuable source of information for you. But if you're going to put my back to the wall, technically speaking, you know, blog posts and tweets, are they sources I could quote in my paper? Yeah, I guess you could. But I also require you to find good, reputable, critical, carefully done sources for your paper. All right, I will be posting some example papers, a link to some example papers to give you a sense of what's going on. Happy to try to post some more. The earlier you get started, the happier you will be in this class, the more I can help you with it. So get started as quick as you can. We'll talk a little bit more about papers as we go on through the semester, but you need to begin now, and that's why I'm giving you this video. All right, thanks, and good luck.